Robert, a few years ago, they made a movie called The Cable Guy. If they make one called The Solar Guy, you might be in it. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing happen and what your business is.
Yeah, so about a year ago, I started up Juul Energy, based out of New Orleans, Louisiana. And Louisiana is a great example of what can happen when there is adequate legislation in place. You touched on the subject that from time to time I am on the roof, and that's where I started. Juul Energy started with myself and my partner hitting the pavement, and we were the guys selling the systems and on the roof putting in the systems. Since then, we've been able to hire 15 people, and we're looking to hire more. And the reason is twofold. One, the state of Louisiana happens to be one of the best states in the country for installing renewable energy. They have a 50% tax credit that, when coupled with a 30% federal tax credit, pays for 80% of the system. This is something that we can all look at and we can point to and show that jobs are being created as a result of legislation. The other side of this is that there has to be awareness. And obviously in Louisiana right now we have an event that occurred, the Deepwater Horizon, that has really made people think about things and analyze where they're getting their energy from.
So you're saying that sort of the confluence of awareness driven by the oil spill and the economics driven by the tax credits creates an environment where you can go out and sell these things. People are interested, even though by itself, without tax credit, these are very expensive systems still to put on your roof.
They are expensive, but they're being subsidized in coal, natural gas, oil. That's subsidized as well. When you strip away all subsidies, then renewable energy is on a level playing field, and it makes sense.
All right, well, let me do what we do in the news business from time to time, and that is play provocateur for all of you, because you've all given your pitch as to why this is a good idea, but you know what the other side says, is that many of the elements in this bill will be jobs killers, that even with the points that you're making, the extra tax, the extra cost will hurt the economy. What do you all say to that, again, from each of your perspectives?
Well, if we were to pass this legislation, right now we're looking to hire on a monthly basis. We're looking to add more and more employees. With this legislation, it would just be tremendous, the amount of growth that we would.
What does that mean? Define tremendous. What do you think that would mean for you?
Well, 15 employees in 1 year in the absence of real federal legislation. We could absolutely double that, and I believe that I'm going to be able to double that number by the end of the year. What I think is important is that we just get the message out that this is going to create more jobs than the jobs bill that we recently, we're trying to pass in Congress.
I mean, you're at ground zero for jobs.
I say 8,000 component parts in a windmill and 20,000 tons of steel. Bring it on.
Even though you don't normally associate wildlife with jobs, just in South Dakota, pheasant hunting alone is in excess of $200 million a year. Fishing on our Missouri River system is $200 million a year. That's a lot of folks that come to South Dakota, particularly pheasant hunting in the fall. They come to small communities. They come to areas that normally don't see a lot of economic development. And it's been very, very good for our state, and I'd certainly hate to see that jeopardized.
Let me throw a question at you from someone in the audience and across the country, Reverend Nancy Burson-Nichols. She's the chaplain, University of the Ozarks in Clarksville, Arkansas. Are you here? Welcome. Thank you for your question. So she asked, what do you see as the current challenges in communicating a clean energy message that appeals to the broadest base possible? What are your resources or inspirations in communicating your message? Wants to be coming from a reverend, you got the pulpit here, so go for it.
I think that the best way to communicate this is, all of us getting out there and, really a grassroots effort, because one of the best drivers of sales for me is word of mouth.
But you live this. Let me jump in. You live this, okay? For people who don't live it every day, they go into their living room and they flip the switch, or they drive their car up to the pump and they fill it up, and they don't think about this. If you're going to communicate your message to that audience and create a bigger base, how do you do it?
Education, and really just talking about the consequences of what we're doing today. You know, when people realize that we have an option and it's a viable option, then they start asking another question. It's, why are we doing what we're doing?
Lee?
Well, Robert, thanks. I'm in the union halls, right? And I get to tell my union members that in 2006, the steelworkers and the Sierra Club got in bed together. And think how that goes over, right? But it's a simple message, really, and it only takes 5 minutes to get the kind of acknowledgement. The Sierra Club says we want a cleaner environment, and the steelworkers say, certainly, so do we, as long as we achieve that through good, green union jobs. And those are our jobs. So it's not a hard sell at all, especially when we can tell our stories. Can I tell two more real quick?
Sure.
Okay, I'm here with two wonderful fellows, one from Dayton, Ohio, an IUE member, local union president, 755. One of his amalgamated unions is a hybrid battery plant. And I'm also here with a fellow, Ed Good, from the utility workers, local 360. First in the nation to go from coal to biomass, a utility plant. So we just have to keep telling our stories. That's right.
Reverend, I think you brought up a good point. What's one image that seems to be coming across on television out of the Gulf oil spill? It's of the oil-soaked birds and sea turtles and so forth. And I think those images are something that people need to hear more about, because changes in climate are not going to affect just individual animals. They're going to affect populations of animals and populations of fish. And I think that's an important message to get across, because one thing I've learned is people in the United States love their wildlife. They love to see it, they love to know it's there, and they like to be able to just know that there's abundant wildlife and fisheries resources.
The talking